What if I told you that the greatest conflict in Earth's history didn't happen between human empires, but between the very gods who created it? That before any known civilization, a cosmic war between the Anunnaki, beings from the stars, almost destroyed everything we know? This is the part of the story that the Sumerian tablets never wanted the modern world to understand. The so-called last rule of the Anunnaki was not a reign of peace, but the prelude to an ancient war that forever changed the destiny of humanity. It all started when harmony between the gods broke down. They had dominated the earth for countless ages, shaping the oceans, the mountains, and the very essence of human life. But as the millennia passed, power, pride, and jealousy began to corrode the divine order. Enlil, the god of authority, saw humans as tools. Enki, the creator, saw them as heirs. And it was in this contrast that the universe shook for the first time. The heavens opened in fire, and what was once divine became destructive. The ancient scriptures speak of thunder that was not thunder, of lights that descended from the firmament and burned cities, and of weapons that dissolved mountains. Many believe these descriptions are metaphors. But what if they are literal records of an interplanetary war fought with technologies that defy our understanding? What would happen if some of these weapons were still hidden, dormant beneath the soil of Mesopotamia? While the modern world searches for answers in ruins and fossils, the true story remains buried under centuries of censorship. Because admitting that there was a war between gods would mean admitting that we were never the first to rule this planet. Ancient civilizations didn't grow alone. They inherited a battlefield. Humanity was born amidst the smoke of a celestial rebellion. And the most impressive thing is that the signs of this war are still here, in every symbol, in every myth, and even in the frequencies that surround the earth. But the question no one wants to ask is, who really won this war? Sumerian texts say that after the destruction, a new order was imposed. Enlil decreed silence, and the surviving Anunnaki withdrew, leaving only mixed sons to rule humans in their place. Divine kings, direct descendants of the gods. It was the beginning of the era of immortal rulers, those who reigned for tens of thousands of years. And this is where the mystery deepens. The 241,000-year reign of the Sumerian kings may have been the final echo of this cosmic conflict. Temples were erected not just as places of worship, but as points of contact, living antennas of communication between dimensions. The offerings and rituals that humanity believed to be devotion were, in fact, attempts to reopen portals, to restore connection with absent gods. However, something went wrong. The final portal has been sealed. The sacred sounds ceased. The earth went silent. But nothing stays buried forever. The cycle is repeating itself, and the same patterns that preceded the war are emerging again. The power, the control, the ambition, the technological advancement that surpasses ethics, all of this is a reflection of what has gone before. What is about to happen may not just be a political or spiritual change, but the resumption of the war that began in the heavens. Now I ask you, what if the gods never really left? What if they just waited for the moment when humanity was ready, or vulnerable, for the return of the old order? What would you do if you discovered that the same beings who shaped the beginning of our civilization are about to claim what they always believed was theirs? Think about it, because the answers are closer than you think, perhaps even too close. Before continuing with this story, I want to ask you something simple, but extremely important. If you've come this far, it's because you feel that there is something bigger behind what you were taught. And understanding this type of content requires an open mind and attention to detail. Every piece of information, every symbol, every line of what we are revealing was left by the ancients as a warning. So, pay attention until the end, because what comes next could completely change the way you see human history. And if this type of revelation makes sense to you, leave a like right now. This helps this video reach more people who are also searching for the truth. People who feel the same calling as you are feeling right now. The algorithm may try to hide what awakens awareness, but your every interaction is a sign that this knowledge will no longer be silenced. Take advantage and subscribe to the channel, because the series we are building will connect all these pieces. The Anunnaki War, the origin of immortal kings, the disappearance of ancient civilizations, and what this all has to do with the present. There is an invisible line connecting the past of the gods to our future. And tell me in the comments what you think about this. Do you believe that the war between the gods really happened? I want to see how many people here have the courage to question it. Right below. I want to understand what really happened. This is the password for those who are waking up. And now, take a deep breath, because from here we will cross the line between myth and reality, and what you will hear could be the echo of the war that never ended. Ancient Sumerian tablets state that the earth was the scene of a war so ancient that even time seems to have tried to erase it. A war fought not just for power, but for dominion over creation itself. When the Council of the Anunnaki split, something irreversible happened. The balance that sustained the world was disrupted. Enlil, the god of command and order, believed that humanity had become dangerous. He saw humans as a growing threat, a rebellious race that learned too quickly, a spark that could ignite the cosmos. Enki, his brother, saw the opposite. For him, the human being was living proof of the success of the gods, a species capable of thinking, creating, feeling, and evolving. This difference in vision was the trigger for the conflict that would change everything. The sky was red for days. The mountains shook as if the planet itself was crying. The war was not just physical, it was spiritual, vibrational. The weapons used by the gods were not swords or spears, but energy fields that distorted matter and time. What the Sumerians called weapons of light could reduce entire cities to dust in a matter of seconds. The inscriptions speak of sounds that made the air burn and rains that never came from the sky, a type of devastation that today we can only imagine with the technology we have. And even then, it seems impossible. How could ancient beings possess such advanced power? Or is the truth different, that our technology is, in fact, an attempt to reproduce what they left behind? During this conflict, humanity was caught in the crossfire. Sumerian kings, who were considered half-gods, tried to protect their cities, but many were sacrificed. Entire cities disappeared without a trace, and what little survived was buried for thousands of years. Some texts talk about the Black Wind, an invisible force that swept the fields and erased all forms of life. Could it be radiation, pure energy, or something that transcends even our modern science? While Enlil called for the destruction of humanity, Enki tried to hide them. He created underground refuges, temples protected by frequency, and taught the chosen humans what he called the language of the gods, a form of vibration capable of neutralizing the chaos around them. This knowledge was passed from generation to generation in secret until it became myths about sacred words, mantras, and chants. The sound, the word, the vibration, all of this was part of the original power of the Anunnaki. They knew that the universe was not made of matter, but of frequency, and whoever controlled the frequency controlled reality. It was at that moment that something happened. A signal from the stars, a deep metallic sound that resonated across the planet. The Sumerians called it the scream of Anu, the sound that would end the war. The gods stopped, the sky darkened, and silence fell over the world. Some say that it was Anu himself, the supreme god, who intervened. Others believe it was a dimensional collapse, the closing of a portal. What is known is that after this event, many Anunnaki disappeared. The heavenly cities ceased to shine, and communication with the world of the gods was cut off. But before they left something behind. One code, one seed. The tablets speak of a hidden legacy held within humanity itself, a fragment of the power of the Anunnaki hidden in our DNA. Enki would have sealed this secret within the human genetic structure, believing that one day, when the cycle was complete, this power would awaken again. And this is exactly where the mystery becomes frightening. Many believe the cycle is now repeating itself, that the vibration of the planet is rising, and that the same awakening that began back then is returning. The Sumerians knew that nothing happens by chance. For them, time was cyclical. Everything that happens has happened before and will happen again. This is why each age of destruction was followed by an age of reconstruction. And if we are entering that reset point again, it means that the time of the gods is about to return. Maybe not with ships or apparitions, but with an awakening of consciousness on a global scale. The ancient war may have been fought with weapons and energy, but the next one, the one beginning now, will be fought in the human mind. The signs are everywhere. Civilization actions being spiritually reborn. People feeling an internal pressure to change. Vivid dreams. Coincidences that seem to guide destinies. All of this could be an echo of the same frequency that echoed thousands of years ago. Earth's energy field is changing, and with it, humanity's collective consciousness. The same black wind that once destroyed now manifests itself as mental confusion, mass manipulation, disinformation. It's the invisible war, the new battlefield. And if this is all part of the same cycle, then understanding what the Sumerians wrote is not historical curiosity, it is spiritual survival. They left clues not to be worshipped, but so we could remember. Remember who we really are and where we came from. The clay tablets are not just texts, they are manuals for reconnection. What do you feel when you hear this? Do you feel like there's something inside you that recognizes this story, even though you've never heard it before? Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's your own old memory awakening. If you've made it this far and are still with me, I want you to comment. I feel the call of the ancients. This phrase is the way to show that you are not just a spectator of this story, you are part of it. And don't forget, leave your like right now, so that this message reaches more people. And if you haven't signed up yet, do so now. Because in the next chapter, we'll uncover the most dangerous secret left behind by the Anunnaki, the real reason they left, and why they may never have truly left. The Sumerians wrote that after the cry of Anu and the end of the celestial war, the heavens were silent for millennia. No god descended again, no light shone over the cities, and man began to rule alone. Or at least, he thought he was alone. Because what really happened was that the Anunnaki did not leave completely. They just withdrew from the surface, taking with them their technologies, their portals, and their temples of power, hiding everything beneath the layers of the earth. And in the shadows underground, a new phase began, the era of invisible control. The texts speak of underground temples called houses of silence, places where the vibration of the world above could not penetrate. It was there that the remaining gods remained, observing what was left of humanity. They say they left their emissaries, hybrid beings, half divine, half human, in charge of maintaining order until the cosmic cycle was restored.
These emissaries became the first kings of Earth, the blue-blooded kings, heirs to divine power. The people believed that they had the blessing of the gods, but few knew that they were actually being manipulated by an intelligence much older than civilization itself. Over time, these kings began to forget who they really were. The following generations were born with weakened DNA, and the vibrational power that connected them to the Anunnaki was dissipating.
What remained were fragments of memory, myths, legends, and symbols. Stone temples replaced energy chambers, rituals became empty ceremonies, and faith became an instrument of domination. Humanity was gradually conditioned to worship what it did not understand, and the less it understood, the easier it was to control. But there is one detail that ancient religions and modern scriptures share, even without admitting it: the idea of a fall. Something happened between the gods and humanity that forever severed the direct connection between heaven and earth. The lost paradise, the universal flood, the expulsion from the divine gardens. All these stories may be different versions of the same event. The final breaking of the covenant between man and the gods. The Anunnaki didn't just withdraw, they sealed the portals. They closed the vibrational paths that connected the two worlds. And the scariest thing is that, according to Sumerian texts, this was not a punishment, it was a security measure. Enlil believed that humans were not ready for the power they had inherited. He feared that if divine knowledge were fully released, man would destroy himself and the planet. And looking at the world today, maybe he was right. But Enki, the creator, disagreed. He believed that human potential was the purpose of all existence. That within each human being, there was a divine spark capable of recreating what the gods themselves had done. This difference in vision was never resolved, and that is why the conflict of the heavens never ended. It only changed camps. The war now rages within the human mind between fear and awakening. The symbols left by the Sumerians clearly show this division. The eagle, symbol of Enlil, represents power and dominion. The serpent, symbol of Enki, represents knowledge and transformation. The man was in the middle, divided between the two paths, that of submission and that of liberation. This is why, in practically all cultures, the myth of the serpent appears associated with wisdom, but also with rebellion. What few realize is that this serpent is not evil. It is a reminder of the power that was taken from us. Many ancient temples were built over energy sites, the same ones that the Anunnaki used to maintain the balance of the earth. Over time, these places were forgotten or destroyed, but there are signs that some are still active, points where the planet's vibration is most intense. Mountains, deserts, ancient pyramids, submerged ruins. All of these places seem to be connected by an invisible energetic network which pulses like the veins of the earth. This network was called the divine grid by the priests, and according to them, whoever learned to master it could literally move the world. Later kings attempted to replicate this technology, but without the full knowledge of the gods. They built ziggurats, obelisks, and temples aligned with the stars, believing that this could restore contact with the celestial world. But without the correct vibrational code, temples became mere monuments. The sound of the gods had disappeared, and it was in this void that man began to create his own versions of the truth. Religions, philosophies, sciences, and myths arose, all trying to fill the same void left by the departure of the creators. But the gods never lost interest in humanity. They just changed shape. The ancient scriptures say that those who ruled the sky came to rule the interior. This could mean that instead of acting from the outside, they began to influence from within, in the mind, in the vibration, in the dreams. The invisible war between Enlil and Enki turned into a silent contest for conscience. One pushed man towards fear and control, the other towards awakening and self-knowledge. This struggle continues to this day, and you can feel it in every decision you make, in every doubt that crosses your mind, in every choice between following what they say or listening to what you feel. Sumerian tablets warn that when humanity finally recognized this inner war, the cycle of the gods would begin again, not as an invasion, but as an internal revelation. When the Earth's vibration reached the frequency of the original sound again, the doors would open once more, and man would once again hear the echoes of the gods. And everything indicates that this moment is approaching. The energetic shifts, the cosmic alignments, the global sense of awakening, all of these seem to be the prelude to reunion. Now I want you to think about this honestly. Do you feel this change too? Do you feel like something invisible is happening? That the world is accelerating, different, almost vibrating? If so, perhaps what you are feeling is the echo of the ancient war reappearing. Comment below. I feel the vibration of the gods. If this message touched you in any way, it shows that you are part of this awakening, that you recognize what is coming. Leave your like right now, so that this story reaches more people. And why metar? Subscribe to the channel to follow the next episode, because in it we will uncover what really remains of the Houses of Silence and the secret that the Sumerians feared to reveal, what the Anunnaki left behind inside the earth. Ancient records say that in the depths of the earth, where no light reaches, the last temples of the Anunnaki remain intact. Not like ruins, but like silent sleeping machines, waiting for the right moment to awaken again. These subterranean structures were not simple buildings, but energetic organisms, made of unknown metals, vibrant crystals, and walls that pulse to the touch. The Sumerian priests called them divine echo chambers, as they believed that the sound of the gods could still be heard in them, vibrating like an infinite note. And according to the most secret texts, one of these temples is still active, hidden beneath the sands of the east, at a point where the stars align just as they did on the night the celestial war ended. When the world lost contact with the gods, time began to distort. The concept of before and after became nebulous, and civilizations began to rise on foundations they did not fully understand. The Sumerians tried to preserve what knowledge remained, but much of it was lost to natural catastrophes, human wars, and perhaps intentional manipulations. Some say there was a deliberate effort to erase evidence of Anunnaki rule, a rewriting of history that began when man decided to position himself as the creator of everything. But ironically, even this rebellion was predicted on the signs. They said that man would one day try to take the place of the gods, and that this would be the beginning of a new cycle of destruction. Over the centuries, small civilizations have resurfaced, always fascinated by the stars. Egyptians, Mayans, Babylonians, they all followed the same pattern. They built pyramids, observed constellations, worshipped gods who came from the sky and awaited their return. Was it a coincidence? Or did these civilizations inherit fragments of the memory of ancient temples? Each of them seemed to be trying to rebuild something that had been lost, a bridge between Earth and the cosmos. The curious thing is that in all these cultures, there is always one thing in common: the promised return. The prophecy that one day when man and heaven reconnect, the gods would walk among us again. But what really happened to these gods? Had they died, disappeared, or simply changed form? There are those who believe that the Anunnaki learned to adapt to earthly matter, taking on human bodies and living among us, silently observing the course of history. Others claim that they remained on the inner earth, in vibrational realms beyond human reach. The myth of Agartha, Shambhala, and the underworlds may just be the distorted memory of these ancient divine abodes. And perhaps that is why so many cultures around the world speak of masters or beings of light who emerge from within the earth in moments of great global change. What if this ancient war had actually never ended? What if the Anunnaki's withdrawal had been just a strategy, a time to wait to see if humanity would be able to balance power and consciousness? The problem is that, looking at the current state of the world, it appears that we have failed again. Wars, manipulation, greed, ego, and forgetting our origins. It's almost as if we are repeating, on a human scale, the same mistake that the gods made in the past: the quest for absolute domination. Perhaps that is why the signs of imbalance are becoming stronger. Natural disasters, weather anomalies, rare celestial alignments, everything seems to indicate that something is approaching. There is a passage on the Nippur tablets that says, "When the blood of heaven boils and man forgets the sound of creation, the gate of silence will open once more." This phrase has always intrigued researchers because it talks about gates, in the plural. The underground temples were not isolated. They formed a network, a kind of planetary system connected by energy. The closing of the portals by the gods interrupted this flow, and since then, Earth has operated at a reduced frequency. It's as if we are living just a fraction of our true reality. And according to the texts, when these portals begin to reactivate, everything will change, including time. The idea may seem absurd, but think, why did so many ancient cultures build their monuments exactly on the same energetic meridians? Why are the pyramids in Egypt, Mexico, and China almost perfectly aligned? And why has knowledge about energy, vibration, and resonance been systematically erased from our schools and religions? Does someone, or something, not want us to re-understand the power we once had? What we know is that the presence of the Anunnaki shaped humanity definitively. They didn't just teach about agriculture, writing, and architecture. They introduced the concept of hierarchy, power, and control. They created a society that mirrored the divine system itself: gods at the top, servants at the bottom. And to this day, we repeat this model without realizing it. Corporations, governments, religions, they all operate under the same structure. It is as if the mold of the gods has been imprinted on our own psychology. But there is a difference. The current cycle will not end with physical war, but with an awakening of consciousness. The return of the gods will not be an arrival in ships, but a memory. The moment when man recognizes that the power he sought outside was always within himself. Sumerian texts speak of this in a veiled way. When man hears the sound of his own heart, the voice of the gods will echo again. This means that the true portal was never under the earth. It is within each of us. But if this is so, why are we so afraid of this truth? Why are we so resistant to the idea that perhaps we are more than just human? Perhaps because accepting this means overthrowing all the systems that support the illusion. And fear is the most powerful weapon to prevent awakening. I want you to think about this now. What if this story is real, and the return of the gods is already happening? Not from without, but from within. What if the signs you've been feeling lately, that sense of change, of urgency, of being in something greater, are the echo of the Anunnaki awakening within human consciousness? If you feel this too, if on some level this story resonates with you, comment here. I feel the awakening. This phrase, if it is the code for those who understand what is really happening. Leave your like right now, because the more people do this, the more this message spreads and the closer we get to breaking the silence. And if you haven't signed up yet, sign up, because what comes in the next chapter is the point where myth and reality finally merge. The revelation of who really won the ancient war of the gods. The oldest texts speak of a time when the sky trembled, not in metaphors but literally. The firmament seemed to split, and a light so intense fell upon the earth that day and night became confused. It was the beginning of what the Sumerians called the last judgment of the gods, the moment when Earth would become the stage for the final decision between Enki and Enlil. Each side believed they were right. One advocated the destruction of humanity as a way to purify error, and the other fought to protect it as the most perfect creation in the universe. And it was there, at that moment, that the true destiny of humanity began to be traced. Enlil believed that man had become corrupted, that greed, violence, and the desire for power had become part of human nature. He saw the reflection of the gods themselves in humans, and it terrified him. If men inherited divine traits, they also inherited the ability to destroy. They have forgotten who created them, the tablets say, and those who forget their origin become a threat to the cosmos. Enlil then decided to wipe out civilization. His plan was simple and brutal: cause a new flood, an event that would erase everything that had been built. And perhaps for the first time, the entire sky fell silent. But Enki, the god of wisdom and life, did not accept the fate imposed by his brother. He believed that humanity could still be saved, that within every human being there was something that not even the gods fully understood: the capacity to love. This was the point that Sumerian texts repeat in codes and symbols. Love, for the Anunnaki, was not just an emotion, but a creative force, a frequency capable of altering matter, of transforming chaos into harmony. Enki saw the reflection of this energy in humans. Therefore, he decided to act against the gods' own advice. It was at this time that reports about the chosen of sound emerged. Ordinary people, but who were capable of feeling vibrations and responding to them. Enki called them seed guardians because he believed that if they survived, they would keep the original spark of creation alive. He gathered them secretly in isolated regions, taught them the primordial sounds, the vibrations that could connect to the forces of the earth, and hid them in protected places where the black wind could not reach them. When the flood came, the waters covered the cities, temples, and towers, but the sounds, frequencies, and knowledge survived in the minds of those few. The Sumerians said that when the waters receded, these vibration survivors emerged from the silence and started the world again. They were the ones who gave rise to post-Diluvian civilizations, taking with them fragments of ancient knowledge. This is why we see pyramids, astronomy, and writing systems emerging almost simultaneously in distant places. It wasn't coincidence, it was memory. The memory of a past in which man spoke the language of the gods. But not everything was forgotten. The direct descendants of the ancient kings still carried traces of the Anunnaki DNA in their blood. This blood, according to the records, had a different frequency, a resonance that connected them to the energies of the ancient underground temples. It was these sons of heaven who later became the pharaohs, high priests, and sacred kings of ancient civilizations. They believed they ruled by divine right, and perhaps they were right. Because if the gods really manipulated human DNA, then there is a part of us that literally comes from the stars. This knowledge, however, was never intended for everyone. From the beginning, power was reserved for a few. Enki himself knew that knowledge without wisdom would become destructive. Therefore, he encoded his lessons in symbols, myths, and numbers. He spread knowledge into fragments, ensuring that only those with an awakened conscience could understand the whole. This is why clay tablets, Egyptian texts, and Hindu writings look so different, but hide the same essence. They all speak of the cosmic origin of humanity, the war between light and shadow, and the promise of return. There are passages that say that the underground temples vibrated one last time before closing completely. The sound was described as a deep chorus, something between thunder and human singing. The entire earth would have felt the impact. After that, communication with the gods ceased for good. The survivors interpreted the silence as abandonment, but the priests, the older ones, knew that this was just the fulfillment of a cycle. The gods would return, not as celestial figures, but as consciousness reactivated within man. The return would not be seen with the eyes, but felt with the heart, and perhaps that time is coming again. Modern science is beginning to recognize that vibration and frequency are the true forces that shape reality. The ancients already knew this thousands of years ago. They used sound to move stones, mind energy to alter the surrounding field, and the power of intention to materialize. Everything we call a miracle today was, in fact, vibrational knowledge. And if this same power is awakening in us, would it be a sign that the cycle has truly closed? The most disturbing thing is realizing that everything seems to be connected. The rise of Earth's frequencies, the behavior of the sun, the increase in vivid dreams and inexplicable experiences reported around the world. All of these may be echoes of the awakening of the temples. The sound of the gods may be returning, not as a distant roar, but as an inner call. This is why so many people report being more sensitive, more aware, as if something inside them is remembering something old. And perhaps this is proof that the legacy of the Anunnaki has not died. He lives within everyone who dares to question, feel, and seek. True heritage is not in the temples, the ruins, or the tablets, but in the ability to remember, to reconnect with the original sound. The Sumerians said that when man remembers the name of the first sound, the veil will fall, and everything will be revealed. Do you feel this? That strange feeling that something is about to happen but you can't explain it? That there is a silent calling coming from the depths of your being? If so, perhaps you are hearing the same sound that echoed thousands of years ago. Comment here. I hear the sound of the ancients. If this message resonated with you, this will show that you are part of the awakening. Leave your like right now, because this helps spread this story to those who also need to remember. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next episode, we're going to delve into a point that few have dared to explore: what really happened to the gods who lost the war, and why some of them may still be alive, hiding beneath our feet. The ancient Sumerians claimed that the true secret of the gods was not in the stars, but in the depths of the earth. When the war ended and the celestial power fragmented, many of the Anunnaki did not return to their original world. Some fled to underground regions, known as the Chambers of Return, while others were imprisoned in vibrational structures sealed by energy fields that could only be broken when humanity once again reached the state of consciousness it had before the fall. This story, hidden beneath layers of metaphor and symbolism, describes something much deeper than a simple battle between powerful entities. It speaks of a cosmic divide that echoes within every human being to this day. A silent struggle between remembering and forgetting, between inner power and submission to illusion. Underground temples were much more than physical shelters. According to the texts, they were living doors between dimensions, places where the Earth's vibration aligned perfectly with the original sound of the universe. Inside these chambers, time did not flow as we know it. A minute there would be equivalent to hours out here. The air was thick, as if all of reality was suspended. Some scribes described the interior of these temples as a mirror of silence, where every thought took shape and every emotion became visible. Imagine for a moment this level of consciousness, a place where mind and matter were one. This was the domain of the gods. But what the texts imply is even more disturbing. They suggest that these portals were not only sealed to protect the gods from humanity, but also to protect humanity from the gods. During the war, the balance between power and creation was disrupted. The vibrational frequencies that kept the universe in harmony began to misalign. The energy became unstable, and the Anunnaki themselves began to mutate. Some became entities of pure light, expanded consciousnesses that could no longer take physical form. Others, however, fell. They became dense, dark, trapped by the Earth's magnetism. And that is why many ancient texts speak of fallen gods. They were not punished. They were imprisoned by their own vibration. These entities, upon losing contact with the higher plane, began to seek energy from a new source: human fear. Fear, as the ancient priests knew, is one of the most powerful, but also most destructive, vibrations. It feeds the denser dimensions, those that live in the shadows of reality. Iti. Since then, a part of humanity has been manipulated by these invisible forces, not as literal monsters, but as ideas, beliefs, systems. Each time humanity moves away from its essence, it becomes vibrational food for the forces that feed on unconsciousness. It is at this point that myth becomes confused with history. The tablets describe that, over the millennia, some hybrid descendants of the Anunnaki continued to act in the physical world, guiding empires, manipulating kingdoms, and shaping entire civilizations according to the original model of domination. They were not gods in the literal sense, but carriers of the same genetic and vibrational code. They created priestly castes, royal lineages, and secret orders, all charged with keeping humanity in the vibration of oblivion. And do you realize how this structure still exists today? Governments, religions, institutions, all based on the same hierarchical architecture, the same Sumerian model of power. But the most interesting part is what the texts call the lost sound of Nibiru, a vibrational sequence described in cuneiform that would have the power to reopen the portals and free the gods trapped on Earth. This sound, according to the inscriptions, could only be reproduced when humanity united in a collective frequency of consciousness. In other words, when a sufficient number of people vibrated in the same awakening tune, the portals would open naturally. This idea may seem symbolic, but it is deeply consistent with what we know today about resonance and energy. Collective vibration can alter magnetic fields, change patterns, and even interfere with atomic structures. What the Sumerians called magic, today we call quantum physics. The remaining priests knew this. Therefore, they kept knowledge in the pyramids, on tablets, and in myths. They encoded the information so that only those who had eyes to see and ears to hear could understand. This is why we find the same pattern in so many different cultures. The symbol of the serpent, the all-seeing eye, the winged sun disk. All of these emblems point to the same secret, the power of vibration and consciousness. But over the centuries, these symbols were hijacked by those who only sought material power. The sacred became profane. Knowledge became dogma. And in the midst of all this, modern man has forgotten himself. It has become dependent on external technologies, when the ancients said the true technology was within. The human body, the Anunnaki claimed, was the masterpiece of creation. Each cell is a transmitter, each organ an antenna. When aligned, the body can access cosmic frequencies and decode messages from the universe itself. The problem is that the current system, based on fear, rush, and disconnection, keeps people out of sync. The vibration of humanity is being deliberately lowered to prevent the collective awakening that would reopen the portals. But something is changing. In recent years, millions of people have begun to feel the calling. It is no coincidence that there is a growing interest in spirituality, meditation, and ancient civilizations. It's the vibrational DNA trying to reactivate itself. The memory of the gods is returning. And perhaps that is why so many previously hidden truths are beginning to surface. Ancient documents, archaeological discoveries, celestial alignments, everything seems to conspire for the same purpose, to remind man of where he came from. Think with me. What if the return of the Anunnaki is not a physical event, but a collective transformation of consciousness? What if the awakening we are experiencing is exactly what the tablets prophesied? The moment when man once again recognizes his own divinity? When you look at what's happening in the world, the collapse of systems, the search for meaning, the fatigue in the face of lies, you realize that something bigger is behind it all. And here's a thought-provoking thought. Maybe the gods never left. Maybe what we call them is actually a reflection of who we are at our fullest potential. Man is the forgotten Anunnaki, living an experience of limitation to rediscover the infinite within himself. The return of the gods may actually be the return of consciousness. Now I want to know, do you feel this too? This change, this restlessness, this feeling that you're about to discover something great about who you really are? If so, comment here. The awakening has already begun. This is the vibrational password for those who understand what is happening. Leave your like dash to strengthen this message and unsubscribe to the channel. To follow the next episode, where we will reveal one of the secrets most kept by the ancient priests of Enki, the ritual of the lost sound and the true meaning of the underground portals of the gods. There is something that modern scholars still cannot understand: how people so ancient people could describe the cosmos, genetics, and the laws of energy with such precision. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Akkadians, they all spoke of the Anunnaki, not as mythological figures but as real beings, masters of science, engineering, and vibration. And the most curious thing is that this wisdom does not seem to be the result of common human evolution, but of a sudden leap in knowledge, as if someone had simply handed over the map of creation. But who? And why? This is where the mystery of the Anunnaki's final rule takes on new meaning. Because, contrary to what many think, they did not disappear, they just changed the way they rule. Ancient texts describe the end of the War of the Gods as a vibrational power shift. This means that the domain passed from the physical plane to the mental and energetic plane. The battle stopped being fought between armies and started to take place inside human minds. This is why the world to this day lives in cycles of confusion, fear, and manipulation. The true battlefield is no longer heaven, it is consciousness. Man has become the battlefield where light and shadow face each other every day. This idea may seem symbolic, but when we observe the way humanity is constantly distracted, divided, and driven to fear, we realize that the ancient war never ended. It just changed its scene. The priests who survived the Sumerian cataclysm spoke of something called the seal of vibration. It was a kind of energetic block placed on humanity to prevent it from accessing ancestral memories. This seal was activated through sound. The same sound that once connected man to the gods has now been distorted to disconnect him. The ancient ceremonies, which used chants and harmonic frequencies, were replaced by rituals based on fear and submission. Religion, which should be a channel of liberation, has become the main instrument of control. And this was no accident. It was a strategy. Imagine, if man is capable of creating with thought and manifesting with emotion, what would happen if he was induced to think and feel only fear, guilt, or scarcity? He would create exactly the kind of world that would keep him trapped, an endless cycle of suffering. And this is the deepest point of all Sumerian teachings. The human being is the co-author of his own prison. But there's a loophole in the system, something the gods themselves couldn't fully predict: free will. This spark of choice is what sets humans apart from any other cosmic race. This is what could one day break the seal. The ancients called this moment the return of the golden frequency. They believed that when the Earth completed a specific vibrational cycle, the human resonance would return to alignment with the original sound, allowing the memory to be restored. This process does not depend on technology, but on consciousness. Therefore, today we see a collective awakening happening. Thousands of people across the planet are beginning to question the official versions of history, feeling that there is something much bigger behind what we have been taught to believe.
They are listening to the call that has echoed for millennia, the call of the Anunnaki, not as masters, but as mirrors of what we are capable of being. But this is where the story becomes even more unsettling. There is a passage in the tablets of Lagash that speaks of the three echoes of the end. The first echo would be the return of forbidden knowledge, the moment when the secrets of the stars would once again be revealed to humanity.
The second echo, the awakening of internal frequencies, the point at which human beings would begin to realize the power of their own energy. And the third echo, the most feared of all, the reunion with the creators. According to the texts, this reunion would not necessarily be physical, but vibrational. A clash of consciousness between man and the gods, something so powerful it could change the fabric of reality as we know it. If you look around the world today, you will notice signs of these echoes everywhere. The first echo has already begun. Archaeological discoveries challenging everything we know about history, ancient texts being deciphered with new technologies, previously censored information now accessible to the public. The second echo is underway. The exponential increase of people awakening to energetic practices, meditation, vibration, sound, and quantum consciousness. And the third, this one is approaching. It is the point at which human vibration will reach a critical frequency. And according to the texts, this will open the ancient doors of return. These doors are not physical, but energetic fields that exist in the same spots where ancient temples were built. Places like Ur, Nippur, Eridu, and interestingly, today inaccessible regions under the ice of Antarctica. The Anunnaki used sacred geometry to align these doors with planetary energy flows. When the vibration H, once the right tone is struck, these portals can be reactivated, not by machines, but by collective consciousness. This means that the destiny of humanity is not in the hands of governments, scientists, or religious leaders, but in the power within each person. Think about this. What if the wars, crisis, and misinformation we experience today are not accidents, but desperate attempts to prevent the human vibration from reaching this trigger point? It is possible that fear is the last weapon used to keep doors closed. And the more humanity awakens, the more these forces stir. The game is almost over. The ancient texts say, "When the silence is broken and man hears the sound of the earth's heart, the throne of the gods will fall." This phrase symbolizes the moment in which human beings will understand that they have never been separated from the divine. The power we seek outside is actually within. The real war of the Anunnaki was, from the beginning, a war for human consciousness. Now, I want you to reflect with me. What would happen if we all, for a moment, decided to stop being afraid? If, together, We vibrated love, truth, and connection. What would happen to this system built on control? Maybe he would fall apart instantly. Perhaps this is the true meaning of the return of the gods, the return of our own consciousness to its original state. If you feel this message deep in your soul, if something inside you recognizes these words, comment here, "I am part of the awakening." This will show that you are among those who remember. To spread this vibe and subscribe to the channel, because in the next episode we will explore the most mysterious moment in Sumerian history, the Celestial Throne Ritual, the event that sealed the end of the War of the Gods and the beginning of the human era. Ancient texts called the next event the Celestial Throne Ceremony, and said it was the last great meeting between the gods before absolute silence. It was at that moment that the fate of the earth and of humanity itself was sealed. According to Sumerian inscriptions, each of the leading Anunnaki attended this final council. Enlil, the god of authority and storm; Enki, the lord of waters and wisdom; Ninmah, the mother of living forms; and Nana, the guardian of the moon and time. What was at stake was not just the continuity of the human species, but control over the planet's vital frequencies. The tablets say that on that day, the earth sang in despair, a deep, continuous sound that resonated as if the planet knew what was about to happen. Enlil proposed the definitive closure of the celestial portals. He believed that humanity was not ready to sustain the vibration of the gods, and that if the channels remained open, chaos would return. Enki, on the other hand, insisted that knowledge could not be buried. He argued that man, even imperfect, was the key to cosmic evolution itself. "If man forgets who he is," said Enki, "the universe will forget why he exists." This phrase was engraved on one of the oldest clay tablets ever found. She doesn't just talk about faith. She talks about universal memory, the connection between the creator and creation. The debate between the two lasted symbolic eons. It was no longer a question of who was right, but of which vibration would prevail, fear or freedom. The war between the Anunnaki had begun in the energy field, but would end within the human soul. So when the council came to an end, something extraordinary happened. Ninmah, the mother of humans, took the floor and made a proposal that would change the course of all existence, seal knowledge within human DNA. She believed that the memory of the gods should not be destroyed, but laid dormant. Thus, she created what the texts call the Return Code. This code would be activated only when humanity's vibration again reached the sacred tone, the frequency of love and truth. And this is where the story begins to connect with our time. Because if we look at the advances in modern genetics, we discover something unsettling. There are portions of our DNA that scientists call junk DNA, simply because they cannot understand their function. But what if this garbage is precisely the dormant code that Ninmah inserted millennia ago? What if the true purpose of human evolution is to reactivate these sequences? Ancient texts said that the awakening of this code would bring back the golden sound, the same vibration that, at the beginning of time, allowed the gods to shape matter. From that point on, records describe the beginning of an era of oblivion. Civilizations began to be born and die without remembering their origin. The gods left, or rather they fell silent, and in their place, kings and priests arose who claimed to rule in the name of the ancient gods. They created temples, rituals, and hierarchies, but without understanding the true meaning of the energies they manipulated. The pure sound became religious singing. The sacred code became doctrine. Wisdom turned into political power. And what was divine became dogma. But not everyone bowed. In some isolated regions, the echo of the ancients was still preserved. People who lived close to the stars, the Sumerians called them the guardians of sound, kept the vibrational tradition alive. They knew that awakening would come when heaven and earth aligned again, and they waited for millennia. Each generation passed the secret to the next, hidden in music, geometries, dances, and stories. At first glance, they seemed like legends, but behind each symbol there was an energetic coding. All this to preserve the bridge between man and the divine. The most impressive thing is that modern science is beginning to confirm what these people already knew. Sound and vibration shape reality. Sound waves can alter molecules, change water patterns, and even influence genetic behavior. In other words, creation, the word, as so many cultures have called it, is literally sound. And the golden sound of the gods was not just a metaphor, It was the exact frequency of universal harmony, the same thing that, according to the ancients, resonated in the strings of instruments made to imitate the cosmos. When this frequency was touched, the surrounding space changed. The stones vibrated, the air changed density, and the body entered a state of total connection with the universe. Now imagine the power that would have in the wrong hands. That was why Enlil wanted to seal knowledge. He feared that man, without sufficient wisdom, would use sound to dominate rather than create. And maybe he wasn't entirely wrong. Just look around us. The same sound that can heal can also destroy. Music that awakens can also manipulate. The verb that frees can also imprison. It all depends on the intention behind the frequency. And this is exactly why the ancient war of the gods never ended, because it happens every time man chooses fear over conscience. Sumerian records say that after the throne ceremony, the sky was silent for 7 solar cycles. Then, an unknown star appeared on the horizon and remained visible for 49 days. The priests understood this as a sign. The energy of the gods had moved to another dimension, but was still present. This star, called the Eye of Nibiru, has become a symbol of eternal vigilance, a reminder that humanity is never completely alone. Even though the gods cannot directly intervene, they observe, and they wait. Think for a moment, if all of this is real, what would happen when this code is finally awakened? When will man, as a species, reach the vibration that reopens the portals and reconnects cosmic consciousness? The texts warn that the return will not be as before. It will not be beings descending from the sky, but a fusion between the human and the divine. A new type of being, a new beginning. And if we look closely, we can see the signs. More vivid dreams, synchronicities, feelings of déjà vu. All of these could be signs that the code is starting to react. Ancient prophecies state that when the sound of the gods is heard again, the earth will vibrate in a way that will awaken even the stones. The mountains will sing and the sea will respond. It sounds poetic, but maybe it's not just a metaphor. Perhaps nature itself is preparing for this change. Now, I want to ask you something, and think carefully before you answer. What if you were one of those souls chosen to remember? What if this video came to you not by chance, but because there is something in you that carries this same code? Perhaps your presence here is the sign that the awakening has already begun. If you felt something different when listening to this story, comment here. The code is awakening in me. This is more than a sentence. It is an act of vibration. Leave your 4 likes to spread this message to more people who also need to hear it, and 4 subscribe to the channel for the next episode, because in it we will talk about the moment when the golden sound will finally be heard again, and what will really happen when humanity remembers who it is. When the golden sound was last heard, the world as we know it was still in the making. The oldest tablets say that at that moment, the air trembled and the waters responded as if they had their own consciousness. The mountains curved, and the temples, still made of clay and stone, pulsed with a bluish light. It was the sound of creation in its purest state. It wasn't just a frequency, it was a living memory, a vibrational reminder of the time when man and the gods still shared the same language, and according to the ancients, this sound never completely disappeared. He just delved into the deepest layers of reality, waiting for the right time to come back, emerge. What if I told you that that time is approaching, that the planet is, little by little, returning to resonate with the same frequency that once connected gods and men? The Sumerians called this point the return of the pulse. They believed that every 26,000 years, the complete cycle of the precession of the equinoxes, the Earth realigns itself with the vibrational heart of the cosmos. And when that happened, old portals were reactivated. It is possible that we are living right now. Have you ever felt as if something invisible was speeding up time? As if the days were passing faster and your mind was becoming more and more sensitive? It's no coincidence. The Earth's magnetic field is changing, and with it, our consciousness too. The priests of the Eridu temple said that when the pulse returned, humanity would be tested. Not with fire or destruction, but with choice. The choice between remaining in the vibration of fear or awakening to the sound of remembrance. They claimed that fear is what keeps the seal active. It is the frequency that anchors humanity in oblivion. On the other hand, love and expanded consciousness are the keys that break the code. And here is the most surprising detail. According to the tablets, each human being carries within them a fragment of the golden sound. The human heart, in its natural vibration, emits a frequency that resonates with primordial energy. When someone vibrates in genuine love, gratitude, and awareness, they literally become a cosmic antenna. And it is this collective vibration that can reignite the sound of the gods. But there's something that many don't realize. Whenever a civilization gets close to this point, opposing forces stir. It is as if the Earth system itself is trying to resist change. Collective fear increases, conflicts intensify, and people get lost in distractions. Have you noticed how lately everything seems designed to keep us divided? Politics, beliefs, fears, distractions, these are all noises, interferences created to divert our attention from the only thing that really matters, the inner vibration. Control is not done by weapons, but by frequencies. And the ancients knew this very well. The text known as the Book of Waves, discovered in the ruins of Nippur, describes how the priests of Enki used sound to neutralize negative interference. They built underground resonance chambers, where rare stones and metals were arranged in such a way as to amplify human sound energy. They said that when dozens of people sang in harmony inside these chambers, the air became dense and vibrated until the structure of the surrounding matter began to change. Today, we would call this quantum vibration. But to them, it was just the language of the gods. And the most curious thing is that the measurements of these chambers correspond exactly to the proportions found in Egyptian temples and Mayan pyramids, as if all civilizations had inherited the same knowledge from a single point of origin. These temples were more than places of worship. They were instruments. The walls acted as amplifiers, the floor as an energy conductor. When the priests chanted the correct sound, the entire space became a bridge between worlds. And according to the records, when the vibration reached the sweet spot, the light changed. A golden glow covered everything. It was this phenomenon that gave rise to the expression, the light of the gods. It wasn't metaphorical, it was real. The vibration of the sound changed the frequency of the light, and the environment entered a state of transition between dimensions. But, as always, power attracted corruption. Over the centuries, this knowledge fell into the wrong hands. Kings and priests began to use vibration not to awaken, but to control. They realized that the same sound that could liberate could also subdue. This is where the war songs, the ceremonies of fear, the bells and drums used to dominate crowds come from. Sound became a weapon. The frequency of domination has replaced the frequency of creation. And the silence of the human heart was replaced by the noise of obedience. But now, all of this is starting to change. The Earth's vibration is rising, and with it, the ancestral DNA code begins to respond. This is why so many people have experienced physical discomfort, changes in sleep, mood swings, and even unexplainable experiences. The human body is adjusting to the new planetary tone. Awakening is not just spiritual, it is biological. And this is why so many feel like something is coming, because it is. The forgotten sound is returning, and with each beat, the planet prepares for a reunion with the original vibration. The most enigmatic texts say that when the sound returns, it will not be heard by the ears, but felt by the soul. It will be like a sudden memory, a shiver that runs through your entire body, a feeling of recognition. Those who are prepared will understand what is happening. Those who are not will only feel confusion and fear. And this is exactly why emotional and vibrational preparation is so important right now. It's not about religion, it's about frequency. Love, truth, and awareness are the keys to crossing the threshold of the new cycle. The most beautiful thing is that the ancients believed that, at the moment of the return of the golden sound, each soul would hear its own true name, that vibrational name that the gods gave at the beginning of time. This name is not a word, but a sound, a unique vibration. It represents your essence, your mission in the universe. And when the man hears that sound again, he will finally remember who he is. Not as an individual, but as part of the whole, like a fragment of the cosmos itself. So I ask you, what if this sound is already echoing now, silently, inside you? What if what you're feeling, this restlessness, this desire to reach for something greater, is the memory awakening? Perhaps the golden sound is not returning from the outside in, but from the inside out. If you felt this vibration while listening, comment here. I remember the sound. This simple phrase is a symbolic activation, a reminder that the frequency of remembrance is already in motion. Leave your like, because this helps this message reach more people who are also listening to the call. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next episode, we will explore the event the tablets call the Day of the Final Echo, the moment when sound and light will unite again, and the true meaning of the War of the Gods will be revealed. The ancient tablets describe the Day of the Final Echo as the culmination of the cosmic war, the instant when sound and light would meet again, dissolving the border between the worlds. According to the priests of Eridu, this moment would not be marked by destruction, but by revelation. They said that when the original sound, the golden sound, vibrated through the earth again, everything that had been hidden would be brought to the surface. The mountains would open up, the seas would speak, and even the rocks would reveal what they witnessed. It's as if the planet itself was a silent witness to a story that never ended, just waiting for the right tone to tell what really happened. The records state that the final echo would begin with a subtle pulse, a barely perceptible tremor, coming from the magnetic heart of the earth. This pulse would be felt first by the most sensitive, those who live in harmony with the natural vibration of the planet. People who listen to the silence, who perceive changes in the air, who dream of symbols and feel inexplicable connections with the past. The sound would not come as noise, but as recognition. Something inside them would say, "I've heard that before." And it would be true, because at the deepest DNA level, we all carry the memory of this frequency. The human body is, in essence, a cosmic antenna, and the heart is its main transmitter. The tablets describe this event as a total resonance, when the human vibration, for the first time in thousands of years, will again align with the planetary vibration. When this happens, the barrier between dimensions will fall. But contrary to what many imagine, it will not be the end of the world. It will be the beginning of the vision. People will begin to see what has always been before their eyes, but covered by a vibrational veil. What was invisible will become perceptible. The ancient temples will emit light again, the Earth's energy lines will reactivate, and the previously dormant portals will respond to the call. According to the texts, the critical point of this transition is the collective awakening of consciousness. They called it the birth of the second sun. This expression never referred to a literal star, but to inner illumination, the explosion of light within the human mind as it realizes its true nature. The second sun is the symbol of full consciousness, of the moment in which man understands that he himself is the God he was looking for. And when this realization spreads, everything will change. But records also warn that not everyone will be able to withstand this new vibration. Those who remain stuck in the frequency of fear will feel the world becoming strange, heavy, almost unrecognizable. This is because the vibration of fear is incompatible with the vibration of truth. While some rise, others resist. This is why the final echo is described not as an external event, but as an internal choice. Each soul will decide, consciously or not, whether to follow the sound or the silence. And here's the deepest part. The ancients claimed that the sound of the gods never disappeared. It has continued to vibrate since the beginning of time, crossing dimensions. What changes is our ability to listen to him. The sound is always here, like a distant melody waiting to be heard again. It manifests itself in the heartbeat, in the waves of the sea, in the wind between the trees, in the natural rhythm of life, and the original song of creation. And each time someone vibrates in love, in truth, in gratitude, this melody becomes more audible. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that the world has already started to sing again. See how many people are waking up, questioning, looking for something beyond what is visible. See how many coincidences, how many synchronicities are happening around you. Do you really think this is all chance? Or is the sound slowly reactivating itself within the collective consciousness? The ancients called this process the call of the invisible light. When the vibration of the planet rises, the truth becomes unbearable for the lies. That's why everything is coming to light. Ancient secrets, corruptions, hidden truths. The vibration of sound is clearing the field. But there is something even deeper hidden in the texts. They claim that when the golden sound returns, the gods will also return, not as separate beings, but as the living memory within each awakened being. Man will become the reflection of the divine, and the divine will recognize itself in man. This is the true victory of the Anunnaki who chose the light, to restore the connection between the worlds. Enki knew this day would come. Therefore, he left a final warning engraved on the tablets. When man remembers, the sky will open, and those who forgot will remember again that they are eternal. And perhaps we are witnessing the beginning of this now. The vibrational shift that so many cultures have prophesied is happening in real time. The signs are everywhere. The increase in solar energy, unexplained climate changes, the acceleration of time, and most importantly, mass spiritual awakening. All this indicates that we are approaching the critical frequency. The entire planet is adjusting to the tone of the golden sound. Imagine what that means. A world where the barriers between matter and energy disappear, where telepathy is natural, where sound and light become tools of conscious creation. The tablets describe this future as the return of the land of light, an era in which man and the cosmos vibrate in harmony, and fear ceases to exist. But until then, there is a way to go. The old war still echoes within us, in every decision, in every thought. The real battlefield was never the sky, but the human mind. Therefore, the call now is clear. Remember, the sound vibration is approaching, and everyone needs to decide which frequency they will choose. The silence of ignorance or the sound of memory. And this choice is made every day, in small attitudes, in the words we use, in the emotions we feed. Now, I want you to tell me, do you feel this? This energy? This change? This awakening that seems to come from within? If so, then perhaps you are already listening to Som Dorado. Maybe you are part of the generation that will see the veil fall. If this message resonated with you, comment here, "I heard the sound." This phrase is more than words. It is a form of vibrational connection. Like this because this helps expand this energy to more people who need to remember and subscribe to the channel. Because in the next episode, we will reveal what the ancients really meant by the return of the gods, and why the true power was never in the heavens, but within you. If you stayed until the end of this video, know that you are part of a rare group, those who are not afraid to seek the truth until the end. And that's exactly why I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel now, because the next video that is already appearing on your screen will take you even deeper into this mystery. And there, we will connect everything that the ancients left hidden. Leave your like, because it is the sign that shows that you are vibrating at the same frequency as the person who is waking up. This helps this content reach more people who, like you, are ready to see beyond what they've always been told. And I want you to comment below on the phrase, "I heard the call of the ancients." That's the password for the community that's forming here. People who feel like there's something bigger going on and who aren't willing to go back to sleep. Now, before leaving, click on the next video that appears on the screen. What you discover there could completely change how you think about the gods, humanity, and our true role in history.